hole in the ceiling. Plumbing P-trap, another plumbing P-trap repair, most common job. Homeowner decided to put the 1x2s in. They did a good job here, but I gotta sink the screws, put in a piece of sheetrock, tape, coat, and texture match the spray knockdown. First things first, put some plastic up. I'm gonna contain the area, contain the light. Everything's masked off, just makes it easier. I'm going to sink these screws that they put in their wood because they just have the screw heads sticking out still. They didn't sink the screw heads. Cut piece of sheetrock, get that to size, put in, and then get it taped. First things first, let's get our tools. Alright, now take our measurements on this. 16 and a half. Alright, so we're just going to go with 16 and a quarter, meet the difference. 16 and a quarter by 19 and a half. Let's see, 19 and a half by 6. Alright. A screw on each side to hold it in place. Alright. Plenty of screws. I like to do a screw every little gap here. I'm just going to pre-fill this, the 5-minute mud before I tape. It's fine. Wasn't a perfect square cutout, so there is a gap. When you have gaps, just pre-fill it before you tape. No big deal. You're always going to get gaps with patchwork. Before I pre-fill it though, I'm going to scrape it with a 6-inch knife. Scrape stuff out like that. That's what you're scraping, loose stuff like that. Alright, I'm going to use some 5-minute hot mud to just pre-fill this. We got my fiberglass mesh tape ready, but I'm going to pre-fill it. This is a 5-minute quick set mud. All I'm doing is just getting it inside the gap. No big deal. Strike in, push it in. This is a pre-fill technique. There's a lot of guys out there that pre-fill everything they do, which is fine. It's a good way of doing things. But a lot of these jobs, they don't allow the time or the money to pre-fill everything, so you always pre-fill the worst. I have a rule of thumb. I pre-fill only if I can stick my finger in the hole. While your mud's still wet, you take your fiberglass. Just go right over your pre-filled area. The fiberglass will stick better. Plastic's in the way. That's the only problem with plastic. Gets in your work area. I get it all fiberglassed, and then we're just going to wipe the fiberglass down. Take out any extra mud. Yeah, this plastic's driving me nuts. Some guys like to plastic off before they texture. This is why they like to do that. Sometimes this plastic just blows in your way. Oh, fiberglass, take my 6-inch knife, push it down. Push it down. using a quick set mud like I am, you want to work with it quick. If you're using a joint compound, you would just have to let this dry overnight and then follow it through with your coat. Still slicked out, I still have mud in my pan, so I'm just going to follow through. You could use a 10-inch or 12-inch knife, and then I'm just going to coat right over it. I probably don't have enough mud in my pan to get a full coat on this, but I'm going to use what I got already mixed, so I don't waste any materials. Even if I put a nice tight skim coat over it, it's better than nothing, just to use up the materials already mixed up. But yeah, I'll just let that set up. A little more in the angle over here against the edge. I'm just using up my material in my pan. That's all I'm doing here. Don't even have to be perfect. Let that set up, clean out your pan, and then we're going to follow through and do another coat on top of this. Basically, the last coat was just a fill and pre-fill coat, not a real heavy coat. This will be good coat now. I'm using a 5-minute quick set mud. If you never worked with muds before, you're going to have to use a joint compound. All-purpose joint compounds have to dry overnight. But if you make a mistake with an all-purpose joint compound, you can sand away your mistakes. These hot muds, they set up like a cement. So when they set up, they're harder to work with. So it's a more professional grade material. Let that set up, and we're going to slick it out once it sets up and see if it's ready. Oh my God, this plastic. Taking off the excess mud. Go every way. Diagonal, vertical, horizontal, whatever it takes. Any imperfections, you use that mud on your knife to fill in. This technique's only done with hot muds, quick set muds. 5-minute, 20-minute, 40-minute, 90-minute. As they're setting up, not after they set up. The most important thing in patches is that edge. Feather that edge. Your sponge. Ready to go. I'm going to let this set up fully another few minutes or so, and then in the meantime I'm going to get my texture ready. This is a spray knockdown, so I'm going to need a hopper, air compressor filled up, hopper. I'm going to use an all-purpose joint compound and mix thoroughly like a heavy pancake batter consistency. But yeah, just let it fully set up. This is a good time to double check all your masking, because we have to spray it. Alright? Alright. Hopper ready. Adjust it. Knockdown. Clean, straight 6-inch knife. A lot of guys like to use bigger knives, but it's easier to control this knife. If you haven't perfected this knife, you're not ready for a bigger knife. Perfect this knife. Clean. I'm lightly knocking it down. I'm not pushing down. I'm gliding over it lightly. I'm just gliding over it to give it that knockdown look. If it was a real light knockdown, you would just let this splatter texture dry overnight. Then you would sand it to give it a light knockdown. This is a medium knockdown, so I'm just going over it very lightly. Lightly. Some guys like to take that outside edge, that overspray, get rid of it with their sponge, but the same will happen if you sand it the next day. Knockdown textures like this have to be sanded before you paint, so this texture is going to have to dry for 24 hours. Lightly sand it, then primer it. Fill the edges, any overspray, double check everything. No big deal. These are little nail holes I just filled in for free, no worries since I was here. I always try to do 110% on my jobs. Give people what they pay for. It's called integrity. Just do more than it's expected of you. That's how you make everybody happy, give everybody a good deal. Just do everything you see that needs to be done. Fix holes, stuff like that. No big deal for me. We have the materials mixed up. Double check everything. Everything looks good. Yeah, that's just a simple patch. Tight area with the plastic, as it is in the laundry room right next to the door. So yeah, just let that dry overnight, 24 hours. Then lightly sand it with 150 to 200 grit sandpaper. Then primer. Primer, I recommend using a PVA drywall sealer primer or a Kills 2 latex primer before you paint. Always primer drywall repairs, even a small nail hole, tack hole that you fix, use primer before you paint.